Hello. Um, I wish I had something more enthusiastic in order to start out with. Like, hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing tonight? But, you know, it's more than likely I'm not going to, because, this is going to be relatively casual, is that I'm just, continuing my effervescing quest to put the entirety of my life on the internet. Is that I've done art streams in the past, but I've always kind of had a difficult time with it. I always want to set aside my own personal time for everything, and it really does hurt the prospect of me, you know, actually turning things into content, actually filling the time with brainy-related material. So, yeah, I'm here to attempt an art stream again, and okay, I'll probably tell you a little bit more about what we're going to be drawing when we get back from break. But let's go ahead and let's take that break, and let's go ahead and let's do the intro, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start this art stream. Okay, we'll be right back. Just sit here and, you know, be jamming to some of the music that I set out for that. And also, incidentally, all this music comes from my good buddy Polyb from the 303. Be sure to check out their Newgrounds page. They're a great synth artist who mostly works on Sonic the Hedgehog tracks that he posts on Newgrounds. Always had the ambition of one day writing music for a Sonic the Hedgehog game, which is a very worthy endeavor. So go ahead and check him out. He also streams here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv. Oh, I could put out a shout out as well. Alright, so yeah. Check out Polyb. Oops. That is so wrong. That is not the way that I'm supposed to type that. Alright. There you go. Might as well do the other one. You know, while this is all covered up by the advertising, that's when I want to do all the promotion. Not entirely sure if the clip machine is working, but even if it does, it's always late.
Here is the...
Ah, there you are. Actually managed to get him on his keyboard. That's very fortunate. Okay, we're back now. Okay, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna do the video intro, and then we'll be back with tonight's art stream. Stick around, everybody. Oh, that's a bit too loud. Anyway, hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another episode of Brainy the RPG Cat. Tonight, we're drawing. Um, Not too long ago, for those of you who have been watching a long time, and those of you who know Brainy lore, is that I did attempt to start a comic on Webtoon that was based on the actual plays that have already gone by. This was the Meowing Portal, and I was trying to make it in the manga style. I think I kind of overshot my first shot, and I ended up doing several pages of a comic that was unfortunately not very good looking because I was not focusing enough on really important elements of it, like character design and then just general uh, clean art and readability. So I'm taking another crack at it, and the start of that is going to be my going back and working on the character designs. I'm going to put them together in one big poster right here. So what I have here on my artboard right now is that I have just 4 designs that I had drawn with a good old number 2 pencil. And so the first one here is of Marin. Marin, twitch.tv/Marin Mermaid. Although she's been on hiatus, is that I definitely do want to come back and bring a lot more. Well, you know, part of the reason that I'm making a comic is so that I can preserve her role in it. She's always been somebody who's very dedicated, and she's been one of the people who have allowed me in order to put my work in the copyrighted sections of my books. So I do appreciate her enormously for that. Then we have Otto, who's actually played by my close personal and local friend, Joe. Sometimes he's in here in the chat room as Game Night 00, but also he plays Otto Doc Blue 32 in my games, and this is art of him. In addition to working on his character design in this, I also have to complete it because I unfortunately did not leave enough room for his legs. And so, yeah, we're going to be making a lot of adjustments here. Then we have QB, played by Mimi Bunny. We all know Mimi Bunny because she frequently guests on this channel. And they've created the very eclectic character, QB, who is a spider-like anthro-humanoid inside of a bunny costume. And then finally, of course, we have myself. And so out of the 4 of us, guess who I'm going to start with? It's nothing personal. It's just also the fact that I'm thinking about character scale and hierarchy, and Brainy is also just happens to be one of the few people, well, one of the smallest characters that is going to be in the entirety of this poster. So, let me see. This is the entirety of the size of my paper. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to scale this so that, you know, even though he's going to be relatively small, is that he still occupies a good amount of space in the overall composition. So I think that might be good there, is that, you know, despite the fact that I have changed my character design, Brainy as a character is actually supposed to be a little bit small, like a very small, like, well, just like cat-sized, and so that's basically what I'm going for here. So I did absolutely everything I could to prepare for tonight's stream. The only exception is I need my stylus pen. Okay, here it is. It's right over here. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's get started. Alright. So, I tend to do my art with the stability of the pen just all the way up to 100. What I say is that I'm left-handed and I'm not particularly steady-handed, so I do need all of the help that I can get. So, make sure that any line that I'm making is just works within the width of the art that I'm creating. So, Rainy didn't have comma eyes when I did the pencil drawing, but usually he does. He has comma eyes, so I'm going to add that in. All right. So this track right here by Polyb from the 303, it's an original song, but it is still Sonic based specifically. It's about Sonic, the special relationship between Sonic and Tails, which also has some other fan artists that's a part of it. Okay, make sure that I draw this in a way that still maintains good eye focus. All right. So, there's an outside chance that tonight's stream I'm just going to be completely devoted to doing the inks for all 4 characters. So if that's a little dull, well then, maybe I'll work on a little bit of something else once I'm completed with this. So let me see. I have relatively long whiskers on my VTuber. I feel like, yeah, this is probably the one thing that changes the size most often whenever I draw Brainy. Is that whether or not, he has longer or shorter whiskers. Yeah, right. Probably not a detail I should have drawn right away, because now I need to make a determination about where his cheek ruff starts. I'd say roughly right about here. Interesting that I'm listening to Sonic music is that Brainy is kind of doing a goofy Sonic pose right about here. All right. All right, so far so good. Looking very cute and very fluffy. Put a little bit of a bend to the hair here. All right. The inside of his ear always just looks like a little crown to me. So a lot of this, in addition to making the full poster, I'm also going to be making some like accessory and support art when it comes to this. Of course, just taking Brainy and then fragmenting them and then putting them in other art pieces is usually what I do for like previews of the show when they appear in like on Blue Sky, something like that. All right. Here's where, some of my art gets a little sketchier. So it's kind of hard to think about what the specific, what my specific final lines are supposed to be. All right. So, a little bit more down this way. I think maybe this section got a little bit too wide. Narrow it a little bit more now that I'm doing the final. I tend to draw the belly fur a little bit wider than when I actually made the model, so saves a little bit of time when it comes to just doing drawings in general. All right. All right. Try to make these a little bit straighter than I did in the original drawing. Make them look a little bit more like cat feet. All right. I felt like I did that right. I think I put a little bit too much of a rise in it right there. So his arms, they just kind of feel like they're free floating a little bit behind his head because, as you can see on my model, my arms and shoulders are just very, very loosely attached to my head. So anytime that Brainy does a strong action pose, it looks like his arms are just somewhat attached to his head. Okay, stand to put a little bit more detail in the shape of the hands here. Okay. That's supposed to be the back half of the glove, but it doesn't look like it's actually attached to the glove. Alright. Just make that arm a little bit more dramatic looking. You put the folds because these are theater gloves. Because cartoon characters always wear theater gloves. I don't know what I was thinking when I drew the tail for the sketch, but yeah, I'm definitely going to straighten this out a lot. And there's Brainy. All outlines for the time being. Because I want to see if I want to make... If I don't know yet if I want to make this poster in black and white, or in color, or... you know, I still have to make decisions like that. So in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it as an outline. Okay, so... that takes care of Brainy. Now I've got to think about the next character. Is more than likely going to be QB. I'm going to just kind of start to build up to who the tallest character is supposed to be. Alright, so... I believe it's this one. Nope. There we go. Okay. So... gotta move this over a little bit. Okay, scale this a little bit. Make them only just like maybe about a head taller than Brainy is. Then have them be standing up in a riser that's slightly taller. And this is going to be a little bit funny looking just for the entirety of the time that I'm only doing the outlines. See, and make sure that I am naming these two. Brainy outline. Create a new one. This is going to be QB outline. Alright. Okay, so now I'm just working with the pencil sketch that I did with earlier with QB. There's a lot more, I guess you can call them suggestions. Things that I did not draw in the sketch that I'm going to have to include in the final. Got these long bunny ears. Try to make them look a little bit more cartoonishly rabbit-like. So put stitch marks because this is a patchwork costume that they're wearing. You know, a few long jagged marks there. That's part of the bunny ears is going to end up being black. Probably that's not where that line goes. Maybe that line goes like right about here. And then add a bit more of a suggestion of the side of their head. Or, you know, I don't want to do that either. Instead, yeah, let me bring this all the way down here. Put a little bit of a ridge there. So they have eyes that, you know, just kind of get spiraled together. And then, you know, more than likely end up filling that with black as well. All right. Maybe give them a cheek and then also stitch that. I tend to like to add a little bit of an extra ridge where their mouth is. I throw in a little bit of a suggestion that, you know, the mascot head is a little bit big, and there's actually their real eyes are visible underneath the out of the mouth, so that they're visible through the mouth. And so not necessarily segmented. And then the interior of the mask is probably just going to be darkened. Just darken out the rest of that. So, 2 large stitch marks here. All right. All right. Just round off the top hat there. And giving just a small suggestion of the other ear here. All right. See, I almost accidentally lightened up my my G pen right about there. I'll put a little bit of detailing into that. All right. Now we're going to do some of the cloak. I don't know exactly what kind of stroke I use there, but it looked nice, so I'm keeping it. So, something I need to check right here. Just want to make absolutely sure that as I'm doing this, I'm not making the lines thinner than the ones on Brainy. There's a very good chance of that. I mean, there's ways that I can improve on the line width, but, you know, I don't like to use it because it's a little bit artificial looking. All right. So, I think I wanted things to look relatively marker hand, but not make them the same way as Brainy's billowing sleeves, because just in order to make the two characters look a little bit different from each other. All right. I gave them a slightly wider torso than there was in the original art I had gotten from Mimi Bunny. A couple of other things probably need to add here, maybe a couple of buttons for detail's sake. That's a good way in order to crease the clothes. I wish I'd thought about that one earlier. Alright. Make sure that those look like they're a little bit more like the same width. All right. That's a little too straight. Maybe a bit more like that. So these here is that they have a tendency to wear gauntlets, and the gauntlets have sharp knives on the end. So I think, I kind of rather Mickey Moused it when I was doing the sketch. So I need to take some time in order to make sure that this is a little bit more detailed. Probably make a significant amount of this straighter. Make these arms a little bit more blade looking. All right, something like that. Make sure I'm doing that for every finger now. All right. Says no decision made about which finger is in front of the other. So this is a feature that is, particularly important to Mimi. Their understanding is that, some insects do just kind of have holes in their limbs in order to aerate. Well, it is for some nature reason that I don't fully understand, but definitely a feature of the character. And bunny feet as opposed to cat feet like Rufus. All right. Definitely just want to change the overall shape of the foot here. Oh yeah, that should be. Oh well, except for the other hand. All right. I have a tendency to think anytime you drop below 5 width when it comes to your lines, things start to not look as solid. But I also know that at least when it comes to other people and their standards, is that is a little bit too much of a width for them as well. All right. So we go ahead and drop the sketch here. Honestly, it doesn't look too bad as far as width goes. Let me put the brainy final there too. Get an idea about where characters are gonna overlap. Still something that I can change later. All right. Well, I'm gonna try to give this a bit of a bump. Put in that adjust line width correction layer. See if I can bump it up by 2 points. Well, no, that's a bit too thick. What were they suggesting before? Yeah, not blur. Yeah, I think if I adjust the line width at all, it is going to be too thick, so I'm going to have to leave it the way it is. It's not too different. Alright, so, yeah, these are the two outlines that I've done so far. Let me give this a save. Say a new layer. So I think I want to do Marin next. Does that make sure? There, the next to tallest character. Need scale here. Maybe pose them like right about there. All right. We're going to get pretty close in on this one. Give her a relatively anime girl-like eyes. So start out with a slightly thicker brush. Oh, but not on that side. That's where we go back to 4. All right. Say not necessarily fully detailed anime eyes, more like manga style eyes, slightly distanced manga style. And she definitely doesn't have an anime shaped head either. Something doesn't feel right as far as eye shape here. Wow, I did a lot of details before I did the bottom eye right there. So, nah, never mind that. I'm just gonna erase. Alright. Make sure that those eyes actually look like they're facing in a specific direction. Alright. Oh, gee whiz. Somewhere in the middle of it all, I completely and totally broke my model. It happens. Well, let me see what I can do about that. I'll be right back. I guess while I'm doing this, I'll just go ahead and run the ad too. Nobody's missing out on anything. Webcam trafficking has been a bit of a headache lately. Let's see how long it lasts this time. All right. You know, tilted my head a little too far sideways. Next thing I know, I got a crick in my neck. All right. So yeah, there was a whole like Sailor Fuku color here that I barely drew in when I drew the original sketch. So you're going to see me making a lot of adjustments here, so I can just adjust this color so it looks the way that it's supposed to. Might do a little bit of an embellishment here. Make this look a little bit more ribbon-like than it was in the original sketch. And then it ends in this little necktie here in the bottom. Should probably add a wrinkle to that. Probably not make it as long either. think I was having a little bit of a problem when I was drawing the color here. Let me make a slight adjustment to that. All right. Again, relatively straight, rolled up sleeves. Still having a problem with it. It's obviously, you know, I drew it bad in the sketch. I drew the shoulder bad in the sketch. Let me see, Meow. Meow. Make that arm relatively more arm shape. Now the hand looks a little too big. All right. So yeah, while I'm over here, she could also stand to have a few eyelashes. Maybe a few, maybe a couple of cheek marks. As that, I'll probably embellish that a little bit more later when I actually do the color or the dynamic shading, because I still haven't decided which of the two I'm gonna do. You know, she had in the original sketch, you know, she just kind of had this obscure hair decoration. I tend to turn it into something that looks a little bit more like a seashell. Alright, so let's close this section off here, because I think I do want to raise where I put her mermaid fin, which is her ear. Alright. I remember when Mimi first originally drew this character design. You added an incredible amount of hair in this hair shape that I was having a hard time drawing over and over again when I was trying to draw the original comic. I've gotten a little bit better at it. I've gotten a little bit better at drawing it. But, you know, it's not perfect. shape of that stem to be a little bit more rounded. And just something in order to indicate the back of the head. Alright. So one of the things I'm experimenting with here is try to figure out, you know, which lines I want to complete, which lines I want to leave half formed, so that, you know, how hair-like I just kind of want some of these areas to look as opposed to others. You know, it'd help if there was just the smallest hair part right here. Alright. Wow, this got way away from the hairline. I don't want to guide that line a little too much. Alright. Okay, that line sticks out probably a little bit too much. I need to consider, you know, how the shape, where the shape of her bust actually connects to her arm. Well, I don't need to make the bust shorter. I need to make the... I need to make the arm a little bit longer. A little bit like that. And then start this sleeve right about here. Okay, so this shape isn't as natural as it probably should be. I can stand to make her a little bit rounder at the torso as well. Make sure I stretch myself out. Do those VTuber stretches. Because those VTuber stretches, something I'll overlook because I'm in the middle of doing art. You know, basically how much I am actually scrunkling myself. Scrunkling. All right. All right. Alright. Make this a little bit more of a flow. Is a skirt. Should be smooth. And just patterns on the skirt. Some legs. And then just the lower half of her legs are covered by her boots. So, something I need to make sure that I do here is that there's a lot of like very thin rope detail on her boots. So I need to make sure that I add that. All right. No, that can't be it. Had to have been something that made a lot more sense than that. Let me see if I can actually pull up a sample image. Well, of course, sample image, all the designs that that Mimi left me. All right. So this is Mimi's drawing, and it's like zigzag, zigzag, and then one on underneath. All right. All right, and I can do that. All right, then. Yeah, so a little bit more like that. I didn't quite follow the curve the way that I wanted it to. Neither did that, for that matter. Yeah, I'm gonna tackle it from the other direction. All right. I just have the hardest time with just kind of little thin bits of detail like that. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, so disappear that. See how it looks with the other composition. Okay, yeah, not bad at all. Okay, now we're on to our final one. This is going to be Otto. And yeah, of course, he's going to be the tallest person in the whole composition. So. And also the one that's most in the background. Let me see. You know, it's also the fact that this sketch that I did does not have legs and feet, so I actually have to work on developing that. Let me give this a save really quick. You're not really even going to see his legs and feet that much in the final composition, but you know, he should be really tall. Something like that. Alright. And so, yeah, this was probably the roughest of the pencil sketches I did. I want to do an enormous amount of adjusting. Try to make him look a lot more like the character he's supposed to be. So he's supposed to have what's like a Phillips head screw on the side of his head. And I want to make that a little bit more bolt shaped. You know. The hardest thing about drawing any cybernetic character is that you have to really work with squares. And working with squares, unfortunately, is not really my strong suit. So, much narrower visor here. Almost looks like a masquerade mask. All right. Okay, make sure this actually starts at his jawline. We'll give a more pronounced jawline here. Alright. I might have to do something like, you know, come up with a completely different design for the eyes, something that, you know, I make myself. Just something about there that just kind of locks out the kind of expression that I tend to make when it comes to eye design. Hey, this is supposed to be like a knight's armor grid right here. Okay, that could be a little bit more form-fitting. All right. Okay, that's a little bit better. So, certainly wasn't too sure about my trajectory when I was drawing the head in the sketch. So, definitely fix that here. Alright. Okay, better looking top fins. I think the way that Mimi draws them, they're completely and totally straight. I prefer they look a little bit more feather-like. Alright, so that's pretty good for his head anyway. Alright, so he has a wraparound collar. Alright. Try to make it look a little bit more like that. Maybe a little bit more narrower at the side here. Alright. So, make it a little bit more pronounced on the other side. Alright. Saki Jockey, first time chatter. I know you taught Bob Ross, I just don't have enough evidence to prove it. Oh, Bob Ross, in fact, has been teaching me a lot of things. I have actually been studying his TV show so I can learn how to do a little bit more nature and backgrounds. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. How are you doing tonight? This is a little bit more vague in my sketch. Doing fantastic. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic too. You know, imitating Bob Ross, it really doesn't have a lot to do with my drawing skills. It has more to do with how I totally speak in a completely toned down voice whenever I'm drawing. Yeah. But Van Gogh been really quiet since you started streaming. Well, you know. That Van Gogh, everything you say to him, it goes in one ear and then it stays there. That's a little art humor for you. So somewhere in here was actually supposed to be his neck. I think maybe he has a little bit of a telescoping lines there. Okay, shoulder pads. First thing on the shoulder pads, the great big spikes on the shoulder pads. Alright. And make the ridges on the outside of the shoulder pads stand out a little bit more. So, you know, it's okay that some of these are, you know, a little bit more jagged looking compared to some of the other characters' lines, because he's an old war mech, so he has sustained a little bit when it comes to damage, particularly when it comes to this one damaged shoulder pad that he has right here. Okay, I've got to stitch this part together a little bit better. Alright. Let's straighten this out just a little bit. Alright. I wanted these to be a little bit sharper. Okay, here he's holding a weapon, and this is where one of the parts of my original sketch kind of failed me. Because I didn't have enough room on the paper in order to draw the rest of the weapon going in that direction. Okay, so... start out by drawing the rest of his fist here. Make sure that I include some knuckles. Alright, a little bit of the shaft coming in this direction. And so yeah, that's a detail I'm going to have to fill out a little bit better in a moment. Alright. Say the way that I drew his pectoral is completely and totally off. Okay, so I'm going to have to delete a significant amount of this right here. Make sure I just draw his chest standing out a significant amount more. And make sure that whatever I draw here, it just better matches what I drew on the other side. Still feels a little lopsided, but I think it's just really going to have to do for this composition. And like I said, is that, you know, robot characters can be really geometric, and I'm not all that great at drawing geometrics. All right. Okay, so we're starting to get to the areas that I did not draw in the sketch, so we're gonna start to need reference help once again. Let me pull out that reference folder. Okay, here it is again, my collaboration partner's sketch of the same character. All right. Okay, those seem to end in two different places. I can't have that. Gotta make it more symmetrical. Oh, well. I accidentally ended up, going in opposite directions when it comes to where I was doing my line work. And I also ended up wrecking my, my model again, so let me go ahead and put that back in. Alright. Oh. Okay, that actually helped if I, got rid of the stream interface as well. Alright. So, yeah, this is a big mess right here. I just need to go back and redo some of these lines right here. Come up with a standard way in order to draw that, otherwise that's going to create some problems when I'm actually drawing the comic. So yeah, I'm actually going in this direction. I'm just not stopping as long as I was before. Alright. Alright, there we are. Alright. Okay, yeah, that line is totally out of the way. It's time to make these a bit more of an actual diamond shape. Kind of seems like his legs are a little far and away. Probably something I'll need to adjust if I ever turn this into a single character image. Alright. So yeah, according to this reference, let's see, is that feet planks go up and down like that? So yeah, 1 foot right here, with the shoe going in this direction. Yeah, that looks like it shrunk. Okay, so, just take a moment and, do a little bit of a measurement with my eyes. Make sure things don't get too small when I zoom in. then I think I'm gonna need to draw the shoe my way. At least for that 1 foot. Okay, that needs to be a lot wider. Alright. Something I'm probably going to have to adjust off screen. And make sure that I draw the other leg and foot. I'm going up here for starters. And then draw the whole foot. This is a problem with, you know, improvising some of these details off a stream. Well, he's done, except then that I have to take this and I have to turn it into a mace, so... It's this section right up here. Alright. So I'm probably going to have to redo this whole thing, put the sketch on top of the sketch. Alright. So now he has his weapon. See, I don't even know how much of that is going to show up in the final part of the composition. Where's Marin? He's behind the sketch. Okay. So, yeah, basically that's the composition that I have managed to finish. I mean, this could stand to... move over a little bit. Move over a little to the... Not too far up, but certainly... Yeah. Far enough in the background where you'll be able to see that he's holding the mace in his hand. Or even something where, you know, he's a little bit to the left. You know. As things, decisions that I'll probably more than likely make later on. Alright, let's go ahead and let's give this a save. Alright, so this concludes our broadcast day. I did what I set out to do, is that, you know, I did all of the ink outlines when it came to this one composition, so I'm really happy about that. Alright, so we're gonna just pick out somebody to raid. Let's see, who would we like to visit right now? Well, right now, probably a good friend and associate of the stream, OS Devin. Right now, they're in the middle of playing the relatively obscure survival horror game, Scanner Sombre. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to pay him a visit right now. Alright, folks. Thank you, everybody, once again for tuning into the stream. We are going to be... Well, actually, we're going to be doing this while our ad is closing down, unfortunately. But, yeah. Thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. So, right now is that we're celebrating the release of our very first TTRPG style guide. That is called the Barrons. Okay, Barrons Wasteland. Buy a copy of the Barrons Wasteland. It's our very first full tabletop RPG manual. And I have it right now on my Ko-fi page, kofi.com/BrendyTheRPGCat/shop. Alright, folks. Thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in. Be sure to say a hi to OS Devin for me. Alright, folks. So, thank you, everybody, once again for tuning into this stream. We'll probably more than likely be back tomorrow, and we're probably going to do a Let's Play. Quite a few things on the docket that I'm still, more than likely going to choose for a Let's Play coming up, I think. We could stand to finish up We Love Katamari. Also, yeah, there's got to be something relatively new that I haven't played yet. But at any rate, yeah, well, stay tuned for what is more than likely going to be a Let's Play on Thursday. In the meantime, though, thank you, everybody, once again for tuning into the stream. I remain Brady the RPG Cat. Remember, BRNY means smart. Nothing's too hard if you use your head. Always be the change you want to see in the world. Have a good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for watching.